Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're traveling back more than 2 centuries to the birth of a nation and a secret that never made it into your history textbooks. It's the story of a letter written by George Washington himself that disappeared on a fateful night, just as a revolution teetered on the brink of collapse. This is the story of the lost letter of George Washington. It was the bone-chilling winter of 1777. The Continental Army was freezing at Valley Forge. Morale was shattered, soldiers were starving, and their leader, George Washington, was weighed down by more than just the war. One night, he sat alone in his tent, the candlelight trembling beside him as he wrote. On his desk was a letter, but it wasn't addressed to Congress. It was for a name history has nearly forgotten. Thomas Hawley, his childhood friend from Virginia, who was now rumored to be a spy for the British. Inside that letter were words that could have changed the very fate of America. One line read, "If freedom is to be lost, it will not be by the sword, but by the weakness of men who stop believing in it." Washington sealed the note with his personal wax stamp and ordered a courier to deliver it to Philadelphia by dawn. But that courier, and the letter he carried, never arrived. The man entrusted with this vital mission was Private Samuel Reed. He was only 20 years old, brave and utterly loyal. But as he crossed the Delaware border that night, a storm of unprecedented ferocity broke over the forest road. When the army searched for him 3 days later, they found his horse, his bag, and a shattered lantern. But the letter was gone. Rumors spread through the camp like wildfire. Some said the British had intercepted it. Others whispered that Washington himself had ordered it buried, believing what he had written was too dangerous for anyone to read. A year later, in 1778, a massive fire tore through the old postal office in Philadelphia. Hundreds of documents, including vital military correspondence, were reduced to ashes. But one clerk swore that just before the flames consumed the shelves, he saw an envelope stamped with the general's seal to say missing letter. He claimed a mysterious man in a dark blue cloak snatched it from a table and vanished into the smoke. The clerk chased him outside, but all he saw was a hand dropping fragments of red wax into a gutter. For nearly 200 years, that was the last anyone saw or heard of Washington's lost letter. Fast forward to 1964. A retired archivist named Eleanor Briggs was cataloging Civil War relics in a small museum in Virginia. Tucked away inside an unmarked box, wrapped in dusty cloth, she found a brittle envelope. It was sealed with faded red wax, bearing Washington's own initials. The handwriting was authentic. The paper was from the colonial era. But inside wasn't the full letter, just the first paragraph. It read, "To my friend Thomas, if this letter finds you, then so too does my hope. For the fate of our nation rests not in power, but in principle. Sol primera filet. Let this remind you the idea of liberty cannot die with men." The remaining pages had been torn away. Eleanor reported her incredible find, but the museum board dismissed it as a clever forgery. Just 2 months later, the letter vanished again, this time from the archives themselves. Now, let's jump to the present day. In 2023, a historian named Caleb Morton, a veteran and former journalist, decided to reopen this cold case. He meticulously traced Eleanor's notes, the old fire report, and the original courier's route through Valley Forge. One night, while combing through the Pennsylvania Historical Library, Caleb found something strange: a British intelligence ledger from 1778. Into margin, scrawled in black ink, were 5 chilling words. A letter from Washington, delivered by a ghost. Attached beside it was a tiny fragmenta, single wax seal imprint, still marked with the faint outline of an eagle. What Caleb discovered next would rewrite everything he thought he knew about America's beginning. Through modern lab analysis of the ink and paper fibers, he confirmed that the fragment came from the exact same handmade batch of paper used for the drafts of the Declaration of Independence. This meant Washington had written his personal, desperate letter on the same stock used to draft America's founding words. It wasn't just a personal note. It was deeply political. It was a message of either despair or profound faith, sent to a man torn between 2 nations. But here's the twist that changes everything. Caleb also found Thomas Hale's family records. They showed that Hale Dintedi, a traitor. In fact, he defected back to the Continental Army months before the war ended. His personal diary, now preserved, includes one haunting line. He forgave me in a letter I never received. Holly knew of Washington's message, even if he never read it. Then, in 2026, on the 250th anniversary of the United States, a private collector anonymously donated a charred piece of parchment to the Smithsonian. When archivists carefully restored it, they found the missing signature. Washington, December 1777. The rest was nearly unreadable, but one final, powerful line survived the ravages of time. May this nation remember that freedom is not inherited, is practiced. To this day, no one knows for sure who sent the letter or how it survived. Some believe it was passed down through Thomas Holly's descendants, a secret family heirloom. Others think it was stolen from the ashes of that Philadelphia fire, protected for generations by someone who believed it was too sacred to sell. But one truth remains. Washington's missing words still echo today, not as a myth, but as a profound warning. They remind us that nations don't fall when enemies invade their borders. They fall when the people themselves stop believing in the very idea that made them free. That was the lost letter of George Washington, a forgotten page of America's soul. If you believe history still has secrets to reveal, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, because some of the greatest stories are still waiting to be found. Thanks for watching.